for a little bit, a couple of weeks. I was working at a jail at that time. We didn't have anywhere to go. The relationship that I was in for 8 years, the kids that I was helping raise, everything just left. The relationship ended. So I found myself back in the Maryland area, living with my mom with a 1-year-old. And that's when my world just seems like it spiraled out of control. In February of 2012, I tried to commit suicide. I felt like it was a lot. I was a burden on my family. They're trying to take care of me and make sure that my needs, and I have everything that I need. They're trying to take care of my son, make sure he's in daycare and paying for all those things. Everything just seemed to spiral out of control for me. During this time, this is when Sharron really, really shined her light on me, and just helped me get through that moment. And at that time, I didn't even know that Sharron was going through a dark period of her time. So for her to be able to, pull herself out of a dark place and shine a light on me, that was all I needed during that time. Around, when was it, July? Sometime around July of 2012, I really was still in a bad place. I didn't have a job. I'm still living with my mom. I still have this baby. Sharron comes to me and says that, she needed a kidney. And I really didn't understand what that means, but she needed something. And so I started asking questions. Wait, can you give a kidney with 2 kidneys? I mean, I always thought that you had to get be a donor if you were deceased. That's why they put it on your driver's license. Like if something happens, you can have my organs. And so once Sharron explained it, I instantly found my purpose. And I just said, I'll do it. She didn't ask. She didn't have to ask. I'll do it. She gave me my purpose. She gave me a reason to keep living. And I did whatever it took after that point to be like, let's make this thing happen.
So our journey to transplant, as I mentioned, was not an easy one. And I will pause here to say for anyone listening, be prepared for the twists and turns in life. And don't get distracted by them. A lot of times those twists and turns come and we feel like our story ends there. Maybe we received a no or something like that. And so even though we knew in 2012 that she was a match, things just started kind of going haywire throughout our journey. And so it even got to the point that I said, you know what, Shonte, I'm on the transplant list. I'm going to get a call at some point. Don't worry about it. You don't have to be my donor. And so this first picture, we received clearance for surgery. And 2 weeks, we had done the pre-op and everything. We'd done everything that we needed to do. We were scheduled for November of 2012. Again, I had just started dialysis in June. So I was like, great, this is awesome. And I developed shingles 1 week before our first surgery. There's the middle picture there. And I'm like, oh no. So of course they had to cancel the surgery. And we were devastated because we were ready. I'd only been on dialysis for a few months, but I was ready to get off. It really took a toll on me, on my body. And so, we were devastated, but we were determined, okay, I'll get through this and let's set the next date. And so as we set the next date, then some other troubles began to rise. And Shonte will talk a little bit about that.
Yes, while we're in the process of setting a next date, the doctors called and said they want me to come back in for some more blood work. They didn't like my hemoglobin levels. So I go back in, we do blood work, and they're like, I really feel uneasy about you being the donor because your hemoglobin levels are not where we need them to be. So I'm like, what do I need to do? And they like, let's try iron infusions. And I'm like, okay, let's do iron infusions. So as you see in that picture, I did iron infusions for like 2 months. I went twice a week for an hour, and I did iron infusions. As we started drawing close to an end of the iron infusions, they said, I think we just need to do a bone marrow biopsy. I don't know if you've ever had one before, but that's when they go into your back. It almost looks to me as a corkscrew, and they pull a piece of bone out and they send you on your way. So I said, okay, let's do the bone marrow biopsy. So they pulled me off the iron machine, and I went in the back and we did the bone marrow biopsy. I continued doing the iron infusions, and then Johns Hopkins called and said, yeah, we got your bone marrow biopsy. We didn't find anything, but we would like to do our own. So if we can schedule a time for you to come up to John Hopkins so that our own lab can, do their own testing on you. And at this point, Sharon was like, just forget it.
Yeah, at this point, I said, this is a lot. 2 bone marrow biopsies, that's a tall ask. And so, I'm already on the list. I'll just wait. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Don't go get another bone marrow biopsy. I knew what she experienced the first go round. My sister is strong, so I get it. But at that point, I had to step in and like, no, seriously, you don't have to do this. I understand that you want to be the donor. You don't have to do this.
But I had to. It had to be mine because she gave me a purpose in life. So it had to be. I was determined. Like that no was not going to stop me. You could have had 5 bone marrow biopsies and I would have done it every time because I knew this is what was meant to be.
So there were many twists and turns, but for the sake of time, we had 5 transplant dates scheduled because of the back and forth with the bone marrow biopsies and all of that. We had 5 different dates where we had gone for our pre-op. We had gotten everything done thinking we were going to set a date. And then they come back, oh, the board is saying no again. Why don't you come to our human, so it went round for round and we're back and forth until finally they said yes. And on December 2nd of 2013, we finally, we were holding our breath the whole way, trust me, but we finally made it to the transplant table on December 2nd of 2013. And it's a joyous day. Like I said, we were still holding our breath. I was like, we're going to hold our breath until we actually get onto that table because so many twists and turns had come about. But the key here is that my sister was relentless in this process. And the days that I felt like, just forget it. No, this is too much. You have a young child. We're trying to live life. You have your own stuff going on. Don't worry about it. She said, no, this is what I was purposed to do right now in the season. And so, it just speaks to the heart of who she is as a person. And I say that about all kidney donors, or any type of organ donor. It really takes a special person to see past where they are to be a blessing to someone else. So here we are during our hospital stay. It wasn't really eventful. We had a few little things pop up here, but by this time we had gotten a transplant and we were a 6 antigen match. So it just really brought to light. My sister felt that her being my kidney donor was her purpose in life in that season. And so when they came in and said, you all were a 6 antigen match, everything lined up perfectly. You don't even have to go into ICU because of how the surgery went so well. I truly believed it on that day that it was meant to be.
Yeah, surgery for me, if you see me on the bottom left of your screen, that's me standing in my sister's doorway when she got out of the operating room. They really didn't want us walking around or seeing each other. Like they wanted me to stay away from her because of germs or seeing each other after the operation. But she's my sister. And I really had to have it out with my nurses and my doctors to be like, no, I will stand in the doorway. I need to go see my sister. I need to lay eyes on her to make sure that she is okay. So they allowed me to do that when she got out that day. If you look at your bottom right and you see me back in a hospital bed and my sister's now looking over me, that was because I developed a blood clot in my stomach. And so I had to go back in for another surgery the very next day to remove the blood clot. And other than that, I ended up having to stay an extra day. So it was 4 days total for me before I had to go home. And after that, life has been great.
So this is life after transplant. And I'm sure my kidney warriors that are on here that have had transplants, you start off with a lot of medication. It can almost be intimidating, but that was life and we made it work. And in the middle, you see is our 1-year kidney transplant anniversary. And life for us after has been a journey still. And we'll get into kindness for kidneys and some other things after that. If you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We'd love to chat with you. We're almost done. We just want to leave you with some tips. As a kidney recipient and a kidney donor, we've learned a lot along the way. And as you can see in our journey, it didn't come easy. We could have easily just said, after the first no, with the hemoglobin levels being tested, we could have easily just said, that's okay. And I did on many occasions. I said, honestly, this is way too much. This is my little sister. She's sacrificing so much to be able to do this, but she was determined because she knew that this was supposed to be. And so, excuse me, we have just some tips that we want to leave you with in regards to the things that we learned along the way. And I will say that a lot of the things that you see here was a common thread among most of the guest speakers that we've heard today. The first thing that I want to drive home is the importance of being your own advocate. When I ended up in the hospital in 2006, the first time, and when I received my first diagnosis, I didn't realize the important part that I was supposed to play in the journey. And so the doctors had their standard order of protocol and things that they were doing to help treat us. But I didn't realize the important role I played in the process. And so I can't drive that home enough. It's not you going to the doctors or the hospitals to just receive care, but it's a joint partnership. So their expertise with your lived experience is how you come together to be your own advocate, and then work together to come up with the best solution for you. So it's not a one size fits all. Find your village. I don't know what I would have done had it not been for our village. My husband, my mother, my father, our siblings, like everyone came together to help us. And sometimes maybe you live out of state, or you're not with your family, maybe your family is not close or what have you. Sometimes you have to find your village. And so that would be connecting with organizations such as Kidney Trails, or finding a local support group, and finding people that you can share your vulnerabilities with and build that trust with. That's so important in helping you go through the journey. We were never designed to go through life alone. And sometimes you may want to be alone because of some of the trials that you're facing, but I guarantee you, when you get your village and you're there to inspire each other, just like we have been today, us coming together to share our stories and inspire, you will feel better. Ask questions. That's a huge thing. If you're not feeling okay, if you're not sure of a protocol that's being assigned and all of that, ask questions, do research. I found out early on in the hospital how important that was. And usually there would be nurses that would question things, and I couldn't answer the questions. And she's like, I remember one hospital stay, and the nurse said, well, why are they giving you heparin? And I said, well, I didn't know, And so she said, do you realize this is for people? You're up and around, you're walking, you're doing these things. Why are they giving you this? Do you realize this is usually given to people that are bedridden? And I said, I didn't even know. I just knew that the nurse was coming in every night to put a needle in my stomach. I didn't know why. I didn't know what it was for. And that woke me up that night. And she said, you really don't need to take this. And I said, well, I didn't know I could deny it. And I'm not saying that you go and deny things that your doctor is suggesting, but I am saying you must ask questions, because I should have asked, why am I receiving this medication? What is it for? What are the potential side effects? So it's key to ask questions. Keep a pulse on innovations, and don't be afraid to try new treatments. I talk to people all the time, and they're doing a particular modality for dialysis, and it's really not working out well. But they're afraid to try something else. So be able to open your mind to other possibilities. There's so many things that we shut ourselves off from because we're afraid. And so be okay with trying something new, a new treatment. And if it doesn't work, you can always go back to the one that you're doing. But if you're having a hard time with treatment or medications or things like that, don't be afraid to reach out and try something new. And then also work with your care team. And sometimes in that case, you may have to get another care team. And so it's just being vigilant about your health and ensuring that you're asking the questions and being your own advocate.
Tips for the journey from being a donor. Same thing. Ask the questions. I ask my sister questions. I ask my doctors, my advocacy team. If you're a donor, you also have your own team, and it's different, it's separate from the recipient's team, because they say they don't want you to feel pressured by anyone to give your kidney or your liver or whatever. So you have your own team, and they're with you every step of the way. If you decide to change your mind, your team is right there. They'll relay the message to the other team. Don't change your mind though. I'm just saying that you have your own team there. So ask the questions. I wanted to know what the process looked like. I didn't know if they cut you all the way open to take it. I didn't know that. Came to find out it was laparoscopic, but Ask the questions so that you aren't so afraid. And that leads me to the second thing. If you are afraid, it's okay. I wasn't afraid because I was determined and that was my purpose. So I actually was really, really excited, anxious at times, but I was really excited because this was something that I knew I wanted to do, especially for my older sister who was like my mother. She needed this and I have it. So, you can have it. It's yours. No is not always the final answer. I received so many no's during this journey. No, because of my hemoglobin levels. No, because of my hemoglobin levels. It was the same reason, but it was so many no's. That's why we had 5 dates, and 4 of them was because of me. It wasn't even because of her. But continue to ask your questions. It was then that my doctors just discovered that's just your body's normal level. My body is not like hers. Her normal may be 11. My body may be teetering at 10 or 9. And they did their research and made sure that before I laid on that table, that I was okay. So no is not always the final answer. You just may have to go through the process. And then the last thing, be honest about your feelings. Really be honest. You could talk to the person receiving it. I'm really uneasy. I want to do this for you. I still have a lot of questions. I don't know what life is going to look like afterwards. Be honest about it. I had to be honest with your doctors, because then everyone's on the same page and they can help you get through that as well. And also be patient and trust the process. Be patient and trust the process. I'm sorry, our screen is doing weird things. Be patient and trust the process. If you rush things, sometimes things pan out where it's not really supposed to be your lane. I think with us being as patient as we were and trusting the process and being determined, even if one person or the other was a little like hesitant, like never mind, the process was, at the end of it, it was great. It was perfect. And we ended up getting the doctors that was definitely for us. We had amazing doctors. And so just be patient and trust the process. You have no idea what God is stepping, in the way from, to make sure that you're protected. The next thing, find your purpose. It may not be giving the kidney, but it may be, I'm gonna make sure that my sister has meals when she gets home. I'm gonna make sure her kids have a purpose. Find your purpose. And that goes throughout life, outside of donation. Just do life. Find your purpose and really drive home with that purpose. Take it moment by moment. This one is really, really a big one for me. Someone who has struggled with depression and anxiety. When people say take it day by day, that seems so long. 24 hours seems long to me. And so I felt more overwhelmed when someone gave me the whole day to tackle. So what I began doing is taking it moment by moment. Let's get through breakfast. Well, let's wake up. Once you wake up, let's get through breakfast. And then, then I plan my days moment by moment, because I broke my days down in small chunks instead of looking at the bigger picture, and it helps greatly. So don't, day by day, if day by day is too long for you, I understand. Let's take it moment by moment. And the last one is be grateful. Be grateful for life, your journey, your struggles, the great times, the bad times. Just be grateful.
And just also a few more tips. Never compare your journey to someone else's. We are all beautifully unique individuals, and that's the beauty and joy of life. We all have something different to bring to the table. I feel like that's the beauty and the joy of this summit, is that we're all coming from all different walks of life, different experiences, different types of journeys, different bumps in the road, different bruises, but we're all here for a common purpose, and we all can bring our gifts and talents to the table. So don't compare yourself to someone else. Well, she got her kidney before me, all right? Hey, your journey is different, and you never know what things you're going to experience that could help someone else. Believe in something bigger than yourself. This was huge for me. I don't know what I would have done had I not had faith. And so that's what carried me through. It was something bigger than me that I knew I was supposed to do. And in doing that, it's basically taking yourself out of the equation and not putting the sole focus on you. Well, I'm sitting in this chair, I'm depressed, I'm, that you miss out on the beauty of this struggle. And that's hard to do. That's hard to do. Again, we're coming to this place of acceptance in your grief journey as you're going through it. When you come to this place of acceptance, it's, hey, this is happening to me, but it's also happening for me. That I can go through this struggle, I can take what I need from it because I know I'm going to help someone else. And that really changes your perspective and your focus because it's no longer about you. And when I did that, that's when the vision and the ideas came to mind for Kindness for Kidneys, because I was open to something different and I wasn't consumed with myself. Lean on your village. We can't stress this enough. And the biggest thing is getting out of your own way. I feel like Darren kind of drove it home. I said, man, he's still in our presentation, but it's so true that you really do have to get out of your head and get out of your own way. And it's when we put our mind on others, yes, you tend to your needs and do what you need to do. But if my perspective, and in my sister's case, her perspective is I have to live so that I can give her a kidney. So after the suicide issue, her purpose and her focus shifted. And that's what's important for us to do as we go through life's trials, is to get out of our own way and not sit and waste time questioning, but sit and position ourselves to do something about our situation. Easier said than done, but trust me, the benefits far outweigh the things that you have to overcome. So as I said, me sitting in the dialysis chair, again, after I came to a place of acceptance, because it truly was a journey to get there, and allowing myself the grace to feel the feelings that I felt, but not stay there. And so that's important to note that, yes, these things are real. Yes, getting a diagnosis is real. Yes, sitting in a chair is real. Trust me, when they're doing all the poking and prodding and the machines are going off, it is real. It's so real. But you have to make your journey and your vision bigger than your reality. And that's what will take you through. That's what will help you get through the hard days. And so Kindness for Kidneys was born out of me sitting in a dialysis chair, wondering what I could do to use my story to make a difference. We had gone through this trial, and I didn't want this trial to be in vain. And I felt like, God, this doesn't make sense. Why am I sitting in this chair? I thought I was doing everything to take care of myself and to live healthy and well. And so it just really didn't make sense. But it did make sense when I realized, like, well, why not you? Why not you sit in this chair? Why not you be the change you want to see in this kidney space? And so Kindness for Kidneys was launched on our 5-year kidney anniversary on December 2nd of 2013. These are just some of our initiatives, and I know for the sake of time, I don't even know where we are with time, but for the sake of time, we started out, I actually didn't realize that Kindness for Kidneys would grow as quickly as it did, but I understand that there's such a need, and even more so in today's time. But I really just wanted to give back. And our first initiative was taking care packages and singing Christmas carols at my former dialysis facility. I wanted to go back and just shower them, the people that I had been on treatment with, the techs, the nurses, the doctors, those who took care of me in my greatest time of need. I really just wanted to go back and thank them. So we showed up at the dialysis facility, my family and I, and several volunteers, and we sang Christmas carols in the foyer as warriors were going in and out of the facility. And we handed out care packages and that contained just things that dialysis warriors typically use in the chair. So earbuds and of course the bags that you see there, that was a hot item. They were like, yes, I've been needing a new dialysis bag. And so I remember what it was like. For some reason during the holidays, it would just hit me differently that I was sitting in the chair. And I think that anyone during the holidays, it's a time of reflection, it's a time of family. And so you have a lot of time to think. And I would just remember sitting during the holidays, during Thanksgiving and Christmas and just different holidays, and really not knowing how I was going to feel when I got off the machine. And so it was important for me to go back during the Christmas holiday to let the warriors know that they were thought of, that we were there for them, that you're not in this fight alone. As long as I have breath, I'm going to be an advocate for you. And so we wanted to make that clear. And that was the first year. And since then, we've expanded to over 7 facilities. And so each year that's, it's just become a thing. Some facilities now are like, please include us in your Christmas drive, because it really does make a difference for their patients. And we're able to develop lifelong friendships with the warriors that are there and become a sense of support. Kidney walks is something that we do. We started monthly support groups a year ago. And we started out to impact the Southern Maryland area because we knew that there was a need for groups. And we had our first meeting on March 8th of 2020, and COVID hit the next week. And so I was like, okay, what do we do now? Our meeting was packed. We had so many people there. And we were so happy because it was a lifelong dream for myself and those that were on the support group committee. And we get there, and here we are with COVID the next week. So we had to pivot and go to Zoom. And it ended up being the best blessing in disguise, because now we're able to connect and communicate with people all over the world. Our support group meets on the second Sunday of each month at 3:30. And then you can see here on the left that we did a Lunch on Us campaign during COVID, where we delivered over 500 meals to, I think it was like 50 dialysis facilities for their healthcare workers. And so this was around the time that, everyone was focused on hospital healthcare workers and all of that. And I said, well, what about the dialysis techs? I mean, they have to be there, and their job is very important because they're working with some of the most vulnerable during COVID. And so we were able to do that. And we've been able to drive our mission forward since then, and we'll continue to do so. So we're going to end here. I think this quote, and let me go back. I think this quote speaks to, I'm clicking off, speaks to where we are and where we are on the journey. It says, I can't change the direction of the wind, but I can adjust my sail to always reach my destination. And I think with anything in life, no matter what we encounter, it's really about the pivot that makes the difference. It's about the shift that I don't know what's going on and I don't know why this is happening, but because of it, I'm going to adjust my sail because I'm still determined to reach my destination. And so we hope that this has inspired you today. Thank you so much for taking time to be our Zoom audience. I know there was some technical difficulty, so we thank you for being our Zoom audience. And so if there are any questions, we'd love to respond and answer.
So Sharron and Shonte, thank you so much for your presentation, your story, and I'm watching the chat to see if we get any questions in there. None so far, but it looks like just very thankful messages in there about wow, what an inspirational story the two of you are sharing, especially from both the donor and recipient perspective. I think I have a couple questions for you as well, for the two of you. And in terms of both of you, the education piece, I mean, that seemed like it was a big part of how you navigated through your journey on both sides of as a donor and as a recipient. Did you have a lot of information and resources readily available to you as you were going through this, or did you really have to dig in and research on your own?
We had to dig in and research on our own. I will say that, I mean, the doctors, they told us what it was and things like that. But as far as finding that community of, really understanding, I did a lot of research. Google was my friend during that time. I would sit in the hospital, and again, after I had learned, after that one situation, I mean, any medication that was going to be prescribed or anything, I would be sure to Google it, or even in some cases, I did go and get second and third opinions from other doctors. So we did have to do some digging. We had to do some digging in addition to, and I'm not saying that the physicians weren't great, but I felt like we needed more to truly understand what was going on.
Right. Right now, and you talked about the care team being and I agree 100%, that care team being tied into your care team and really knowing and engaging with them throughout the entire process. But I mean, who did you identify as your care team? Because I know for a lot of people, it could be different people, right? There could be nurses, it could be the physician. Sometimes there's an aspect of dietitian, social worker, all of that. I mean, did you have any idea like who that care team was and how to connect with them from early on, or was there one particular person you really stayed connected to?
You want to start?
Well, in my case, as the donor, when we went to Johns Hopkins to do all of our testing, it was an all-day thing. I actually met someone. I'm not sure if she was. I think she was your advocacy lead, and I reached out to her. I had her number. I had her email. So if I had any questions, I did have someone specific that I can call that will answer anything or direct me to see anybody that I needed to see at that time.
For me, I feel like mine kind of shifted depending on where I was. So when I started out, I was with a nephrologist. And so it was just he and I and trying to navigate through. And I mean, God bless him, because he really worked with me during my process of grief, because I was in denial, and they would set a date for me to come in. So I was supposed to start peritoneal dialysis right off the bat. But because I was in denial and I said, no, I'm not doing dialysis, I would skip out on the surgery date appointments. And he was very patient with me and very understanding. And I think that really made a difference. And he said, okay, Ms. Rouse, you missed your peritoneal dialysis catheter appointment, to get the catheter in. When are we really need to do this? I'm really trying to get you started on something that we feel is going to be more effective for you, because you're working full time. And I was in denial. So I was going to see different doctors, different naturopathic doctors. And I'm not saying not to do those things, because it may help someone else. But for me, my numbers were still going in the wrong direction until I ended up landing in the hospital to get the blood transfusion. And by then it was too late to wait for the peritoneal dialysis catheter to heal. And so I had to start hemo. But it changed for me then when I went to the dialysis facility, because then you have your care team there that typically, I would say, I really wish I had more, but at that time, I just didn't have the strength or energy to reach out to other people. They were great, but again, you only see your dietitian and social worker and nurse and doctor once a month to really have a conversation where they come around and share your grade for that month, your labs and different things like that. And so then when we started the transplant process, I then had that team as well. And so I think mine kind of just changed depending on where I was. So the beginning was just the nephrologist. And then after that, I was with my dialysis care team, and then it transitioned to the transplant care team.
So you really did have to choose your village depending on where you were in your journey. So that's really kind of cool to hear, from your perspective, like how you had to slide in and out of different teams and really kind of work with the team that was really most pertinent to you at that moment, Mm-hmm. I want to ask, and I'm, with your permission, since the topic of the suicide came up during the presentation, I wanted to ask a question about that, because I'm curious for you, Shonte, like, was anyone of the transplant team ever overly concerned with that aspect of your life, or did you have to you kind of divulge that information as part of your transplant process as a donor? Did that come up during any of that? I'm just
actually in the process, it does come up. You go see everyone. You see a psychiatrist, a psychologist, or however, you see everyone, and they talk to you about it. At that moment, and I was honest. I said, yes, I've thought about it. They didn't ask when was the last time, so I was that upfront. Like, yeah, I thought about it last week. So, I've told them, yes, life really hit me hard. Once upon a time, life really hit me hard, and I actually tried. And now I'm in a better mental space, and so, I just want to move forward with life with what I'm doing. And so that was nothing that came back up that I had to really revisit multiple times. It was just during that one visit.
Well, and I love to tell you, I love to give you props for that, because I'll tell you, there really is something into turning your tragedies into testimonies, right? And I think that's exactly what you guys have been able to do with that. And so I really, give you all the credit in the world for being able to battle through that and really come to a place where, you found your purpose and you were able to actually, turn that into something good. And that's great. And just to kind of end it on a lighter note, and just kind of, maybe give, as we get close to the end here, just to kind of get your advice again, like what is the key component of where to get resources? Where did you find the best place to get resources for information in your journey? Was there one particular place that really stood out to you in terms of information, or even just getting all the things that you needed to be prepared for what your next step was going to be?
Yeah. All right, Sharron or me?
Both of you, really.
Okay. You can go ahead.
So I would say I wouldn't say there was one resource. Honestly, I feel nowadays like there's a lot out there. There are a lot of support groups, but I didn't feel that I was privy to those things until afterwards, when I when I got the transplant, and I found the American Association of Kidney Patients, and I found different the American Kidney Fund. And I do remember seeing posters in the lobby, but I mean, when you're going in dialysis, you're kind of in and out. Just get me on the machine so I can go home. And so in hindsight, I'm like, wow, there were posters and things around, but I think, and it's what we strive to do with Kindness for Kidneys, that personal touch of actually having a conversation. When I go and sit in the facility and hand a flyer directly to someone, that makes a bigger difference and impact. And so I would say the internet was probably my number one go-to. I did connect with NephCure, and I attended some of their webinars at the time. And that was pretty much it. I feel like now there's so many more resources available to choose from and to connect with. And even with the emergence of social media, I mean, I started in 2006, so social media wasn't a big thing for me at the time. At least I wasn't into it. But then as time went on, I was like, oh, okay. I think I joined Facebook in like 2009. So that now there's so many different communities that you can connect with, and Facebook groups, and you can go on YouTube and find so many different videos. But I can't say that one source. I would watch the videos sometimes at the dialysis facility that they'd have, you have your own TV and you can watch things from there. But I mean, most of those were old and probably in the 70s and 80s, you should probably know. But yeah, and so I feel like now that we're in a much, there are organizations like Kidney Trails and other organizations that are out here doing things that you can easily connect and find your village. And so I would say for me, it was just kind of like a piecemeal type of thing where I would go on a website. Oh, okay, NephCure has information about FSGS. Let me find out about this. Then I go on another site. So it wasn't one thing, but yes.
Thank you. What about you, Shonte, in terms of being a donor?
Sharron was my Google. Sharron and my doctors. I mean, other than what is, I was concerned, what is my recovery time? Because when we got the surgery, I had just landed a job. And so I wanted to know, what's my recovery time so I know when I can get back to work. And so other than that, it was kind of like whatever's going to happen in between time is just going to have to happen. And I'll ask Sharron a question, wait, are they going to cut my back open, or are they going to cut my stomach all the way? I would ask her stuff like that. But then once I started getting in touch with the doctors and they explained everything, I was like, oh, this is a piece of cake.
That's awesome. Well, no, yeah, I'd like to just say thank you again for being on and for sharing your story. What an inspiration. There's a lot of parallels I found in this. Like, you were going through your situation around the same time I was going through this with my dad. So, there's a lot of parallels there, maybe not the same exact path, but a lot of parallels, a lot of the same discussions that came up during that time. So, brought back some really memorable times where we had to, go through this process together as a family. And there were a lot of things that were very similar to it. So I appreciate you taking me back down to that memory and down that journey and being able to remember those roads and appreciate them. And again, what an amazing story. What an amazing duo you guys are. And I can't wait to see what the future has for both of you as we move forward.
Thank you so much. You were a wonderful moderator. You made our job much easier, Richard.
Thanks a lot.
And thank you again, Kidney Trails, Anthony, Tim, and Dwellin, and everyone else involved in this wonderful event. I'm just very inspired by all of our collective stories and the impact that this will have on the lives of others.
All right. Well, thank you. With that, I believe we're going to go ahead and wrap this session and get ready for our next. So thank you, everyone.